Let's play a little math game here real briefly. You have three different numbers. What is the average of those three numbers? One number is 7, one number is 6, and one number is 5. What is the average among those three numbers? If you average it out, 6 is the average. Well, let's say that 7 goes away. That 7 goes away. In order to keep the average as 6, what do you need to replace that with? The answer is not 6. You need to replace that 7 with another 7 in order to keep that average at 6. What the heck does this have to do with IUL caps? And Charlie, IUL caps with a couple carriers have gone down over the last couple of months. In a rising rate environment, you're telling me that these IUL carriers are not trying to rip off the clients? I mean, after all, cap rates on annuities have gone nothing but up. You're telling me that IUL companies are decreasing caps and not trying to rip off their clients? Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. And here is why. That, folks, is what I want to talk about. Why, when interest rates have increased, have IUL carriers, a couple of them over the last couple of months, decreased their caps? And why I believe that cap decreases may continue to come even if interest rates remain elevated as they are on IUL policies. Why is that? First of all, what do carriers invest in? A good benchmark for what carriers invest in is the Moody's BAA bond yield. Not the 10-year Treasury. The 10-year Treasury is the highest quality, but of course, with that high quality comes a lower yield, all else being equal. So carriers say, in order to get a higher yield where we have more pricing horsepower to provide our consumers with better products, what if we still stuck with investment grade, but went down the quality ladder a little bit? Still investment grade, but we're able to get more yield by going to the lower quality investment grade. Thus, I introduce you to the Moody's BAA bond yield. Today, it's at around 5.5%. So let's talk annuities first. When a carrier has $100,000 come in their door, that carrier goes out and they buy bonds. Let's say that carrier, to overly simplify and overly micro this situation, they say, hey, we have $100,000, we want a bond. That bond is going to pay them 5.5%. Carrier might shave off their 50 basis points, 100 basis points off the top. That is how the carriers make money on indexed annuities, folks. So then they take whatever is left, that $5,000, 5% on 100,000, to the investment bank, and that is where they buy the call options that determine the cap. That 5% or 5.5% bond that they bought is a heck of a lot higher than where it was 2 years ago. So you've seen annuity caps do nothing but increase. Well, now let's contrast that new money pricing that we just talked about, that is what annuities are generally priced based off of. Let's contrast that to portfolio pricing. The general account yield of the insurance carrier's general account might be 6%, for example. And a part of that $50 billion general account may be 7% bonds. Remember our little averaging exercise we went through? 7% bonds from like 20 years ago, 6% bonds from maybe 15 years ago, 5% bonds from last year. If the overall general account yield, for example, is 6%, and that carrier is going out and they're buying 5.5% bonds, you can probably bet that that general account yield and thus the IUL call option budget is probably going to be watered down. To take that a step further, those older bonds from 20, 25 years ago that were maybe paying 7%, if they're spinning out and the carrier's like, wow, so we just had a bond mature, we have $1 billion now that's freed up that we need to reinvest, not at 7%, but whatever the best is out there at 5.5%, what is happening to that general account yield? It's decreasing. Not only is it decreasing because the bonds they're buying today are less than the overall general account yield of 6%, but also because the bonds that are spinning out, if you remove a 7, you need to replace that with a 7 in order to keep that average, which is what the call option budget is, in order to keep that average equal. Whew. That was more mathematical than I wanted it to be, but that, folks, is the difference between annuities, new money pricing, and general account pricing, and that is why carriers on the IUL side that have decreased caps, they're not doing it to rip off clients.